Freeberg,
Wow.
you worked there. How many people does Google need to employ to operate the business and invest in the future of the business in your mind? They have 187,000 employees at Google. It's grown 24.5%, rounded up 25% year over year in their business. How many people need to run this business to have it aggressively grow?
I think there are two main drivers of the issue that Google, Meta, maybe Twitter prior to Elon's involvement, and Silicon Valley as a whole. First is the war for talent. I mentioned this last time around 2004, 2005, because prior to that, there weren't as many grads coming out of undergrad with computer science degrees, right? I think 10% of grads in the Bay Area schools were finishing with computer science degrees. Today, the number is like 60%. Around that time, the war for talent led organizations, particularly Google, down a path of offering more perks and benefits to their employees to create a workplace that was more competitive. And that ends up being a slippery slope because then other organizations try and find parity. And then other organizations try and overdo it and push it even further. So this leads to both wage inflation across the industry, but it's also led the acceptance or the allowance for degrees of complacency. And so I'm not saying that the workforce is all complacent, but I do think that complacency is forgiven. Some amount of complacency. I'm going to take a Friday off. I'm going to take 2 Fridays off. All of a sudden, I'm not working any Fridays. The other thing that's happened is as this workforce has aged, you have more people that are less about killing themselves and giving everything that they have to their organization. And they're more interested in being with their families and now spending less time at work, especially in light of the fact that compensation has ballooned to a point that you can now live a very, very comfortable lifestyle. And you don't need to have a big payday in order to be able to take really good care of your family. And then the other issue is just one of innovation. At Google, if you work on a new project and it doesn't work, there's no loss. You still have your job, and they've started programs where they'll give you equity and new startup ideas, or they'll give you all this stuff. So they'll give you upside if you win, they'll give you bonuses if it succeeds, but there's no downside. And so the pain and the burn that you would feel as a startup founder isn't experienced or realized. I don't need to tell you guys this, but for anyone else that's listening that may not really be fully aware, the lack of pain, the lack of risk, the lack of downside, the lack of having no safety net and falling through the pits removes all the incentive to succeed and to drive and to innovate. And I think that's become part of the complacency problem that's caused larger organizations to simply say, let's throw more heads at the problem. And when you just throw more heads at the problem, you have more of talent war problem that I mentioned, number one.